to this. Okay, we'll start again. I warmly welcome you to this idea webinar on drama theatre education in action for peace. This webinar is a part of series organized by the World Alliance for Arts Education, WAAE, as part of UNESCO's annual Culture and Arts Education Week. The introduction to this series states that its purpose is to bring together educators, artists, and scholars from across the arts education community to explore how culture and arts education can foster empathy, creativity, dialogue, and more peaceful futures in times of global uncertainty and change. And before we begin, it may be worth reflecting for a moment on what we mean by action for peace. And more specifically, what is drama and theatre education in action for peace? I believe that in one way or another, most of us are constantly searching for peace and striving toward it, or at least trying to, within the circumstances we live in and from the perspective through which we see the world. Perhaps that is what gives meaning to our work and our lives. The effort to create a better world, improve our communities, strengthen our relationship with others, and deepen our relationship with ourselves. And honestly, without that, I'm not quite sure what we are all doing here in this world. Yet, if this is something many of us already value deeply, why do we need a special event to highlight it? The answer is clear. We are living in a time of global uncertainty, conflict, and rapid change. The world is not a particularly peaceful place at the moment, and there is a real need to consider how education, and especially arts education, can contribute to greater understanding, empathy, and dialogue. While reflecting on this webinar, I found myself returning to the word action. What does action for peace really mean? What is my own action for peace? At first, I thought I am simply doing my everyday work. There is no particular effort for peace there. But then I realized that perhaps these actions are already present in the daily practice of drama education, in the spaces we create, the conversations we encourage, and the human connections we nurture. In drama, we use creativity collectively to tell stories, connect, and explore different perspectives. We create spaces where trust can grow, where people can share their own stories and listen to the experiences of others. When we step into another person's role, we also step into their perspectives. And through that process, we create possibilities for empathy and understanding. This is at the heart of what we do. What is important, however, is not only action itself, but conscious action. By bringing this topic into focus, we create an opportunity to reflect more deeply on the work we are already doing and to consider how we can strengthen it, develop it further, and make our contribution to peace more intentional. That is why gatherings like this matter. They help us become more aware of the role we can play in fostering peace through education and the arts. In this way, we can influence people's awareness and shape how they view and approach both present and future challenges. So, and then I want to, we have 5 presentations today. We will begin with Michelle Graham Giesen from Canada, and the title of her presentation is Peaceful Resolutions Through Drama and Dance. And then we have Matthew Sheahan and Heather Newman from Canada as well, with the title of their presentation is Currents of Change, climate justice, water and steam. And after them, we have Yu Liu from the United Kingdom, and the title of his presentation is Training the Intercultural Physical Body. And then we have Lutz Pickardt from Germany, and the title of his presentation is Theatre Education as a Democratic Practice. And at the end, we have Roberson de Sousa Nunes from Brazil with Haiku Performance and Theatre Education, Sensory Practices for Peace and Ecological Awareness. And we will start with Michelle Graham Giesen from Canada with Peaceful Resolution Through Drama and Dance. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, world educators. It is a pleasure to be here. Yes, I am Michelle Graham Giesen. I'm from Toronto. I work with the Toronto District School Board, and I'm an elementary teacher, K to 8. I currently teach kindergarten to grade 6 music, drama, and dance. And that's everything. That's my dream job. I am also a regional coordinator and a board member with CODE. You have a couple of us on this call, the Council of Ontario Drama and Dance Educators. So yeah, to start my presentation, I'm going to be sharing an initial lesson, reflections on an initial lesson that I have worked on for years, actually, with mostly grades 4 to 6 students, so 9 to 12-year-olds. A lot of the work that I do uses picture books as anchor texts. I use a lot of story drama in my classroom and process drama. And there's a book that actually my friend wrote, and I'll get a slideshow up, but it's What If Soldiers Fought with Pillows? True Stories of Imagination and Courage. This picture book is a collection of, it's a nonfiction book. It's a collection of stories from around the world where nonviolent, and in a lot of cases, very creative and artistic resolutions have been used to work through conflicts rather than fighting and violence. And so I've used it with students for many, many years. And there's a group that I've been working with in grade 5. So I'm going to tell you about that. I'm going to get a slideshow up so you can see. I will have a video. You'll get to hear student reflections and everything. They're very sweet. Let me just make sure I share my sound. Okay. Okay. Can you see this, everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is soldier? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So what we've been doing is I like to, we've been starting with big themes of peace and conflict. And so, and then we go like lesson by lesson, we narrow it down. Oh, am I frozen? We narrow it down to looking at like personal conflicts in school and how to take the big themes of like worldwide issues and how can we start to recognize it and apply it in our own personal lives. So the students that I've been working with are at my school, Howard Junior Public School. And the questions that this book pose, there's every other page is a different big question. So one of them is, what if soldiers fought with pillows instead of pistols? One is, what if battle lines were drawn with paintbrushes and all the colors of the rainbow? That one looks at Picasso's Guernica art. What if battlegrounds were soccer fields and spectators cheered for every team? And each question is answered by something that has happened in the world that is a really interesting and really like calm and peaceful way to resolve issues. The one that my particular students were drawn to, as soon as they saw that it was about dance, they were like, let's look at this one. And it was this one group of girls that I'm going to focus on today. And the question is, what if everybody showed up to a political party with their dancing shoes on? And this short story. You'll see it's just this one little page. And it follows the life of Ahmad Yare, who was Palestinian born. He's raised in a Syrian refugee camp, and he became, like, dance was life. And he was not allowed to dance. Dance was banned. Beautiful ballet dancer. If you've never seen him dance, it is absolutely stunning. And he uses dance to like get through his life. He teaches others about dance. A number of documentaries have been made about him, and he now dances in Copenhagen, and he's just incredible. And so the girls really gravitated to him and his story. And so what they wanted to do was look at, and I'm going to show you a video. We looked at the themes that they saw in this story, and they were like, well, there was like oppression, and there was fear, and there was, well, they really, he has a tattoo that says dance or die. And they really wanted to, that particular phrase just really moved them. And so we used activities like Tableau and the wave and a lot of statues, and just like, we started with a lot of physical work to depict what these themes look like within them. And then they reflected on the practice. So I'm just going to show you this video, because I think it encompasses a lot of what we did together. This first little one is actually just the wave, where they used opposing themes of war and peace. That's what they wanted to look at first. And they wanted to interact with each other, just tell short, brief stories. And then we went into Tableau work, where we looked at what their thoughts were at the beginning of his life as a child, and then how sort of how they feel about resilience, and how they could show that.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and freeze. How might drama be used as a helpful tool to help you solve problems in your own life and situations?
Help you learn to resolve conflicts in a nicer way.
And how do you think drama can be a tool to help you do that?
You could, instead of fighting, just talk it out. Just show your emotions. Well, just be expressive as you want. Talk your mind, and through it, you can learn about other people, about how to express themselves.
You could learn how to let others show their emotions as well as you, so you're not the only one always talking. And then it could also help you understand why people are angry or upset.
Instead of fighting and arguing, you can maybe talk it out.
It could teach you how to explain your feelings in a different way that the other person might understand a little bit more than just fighting.
If you just go on one person's side, don't like them because they did something, it might not be true. Maybe they just want some space, and maybe they want to play with someone else.
Absolutely. And we are allowed to play with whoever we want to play with. as long as we don't make others feel bad about it. We don't intentionally hurt people.
Talk it out, and you have to hear each side of the story to actually know what's happening and not just be siding on one person.
A few of you were like, let's do the dance one. You saw there was a dance story. So what drew you to that story?
I like dance. I do dance, and I think it's interesting learning more about the history of how people weren't allowed to do it and what made them keep on going.
Well, the reason I liked it is because, again, I don't do dance, but I like to watch people dancing, and I just found it very interesting that even though he was like, either he kept on dancing or that he would die, and then now his country wouldn't let him, and then another country saw that, oh wow, this is a really good opportunity, a really good dancer, so we should let him into our country to dance.
And I do figure skating, so I don't really I want to learn more about ballet and things like that.
Amazing.
I do a lot of type of dancing. I've done ballet before, and it's just an amazing way to express yourself, and it's so cool to watch, and I feel like it'd be a really fun thing to learn about and to express.
To hear about somebody who their life is dance, and it's literally a life or death thing, that's how important the arts are for this man. I think it is very interesting to hear that it's not just for fun. It can be someone's lifeblood.
If you're upset, then you can dance and feel like you can just let everything out, and it doesn't always have to be hard. It can be, dance can help.
So this was just the response after one lesson. We're going to continue on. We're going to continue on with this, and we're going to start looking at sort of general situations that now these kids face on, outside at recess, and maybe they won't tell their personal stories, but like, how can we start using these ideas that you're talking about in our own school, and make it really relevant to them? And just an interesting thing was 3 of the girls who were in that video, they're not in the same class as the other students, but they had a really hard time that morning. They were arguing over a different project in school, and they were like, can we come do this lesson? I'm like, yeah, of course, please join us. And all of a sudden, the language that they started using, they were like, well, that was a really good idea, like talking to the girls that they had been fighting with all morning. And all of a sudden they were like, well, building off of your idea, that's a really good idea. And they started connecting ideas and finally speaking respectfully to each other. It was like watching peace happen in real time on a micro level. And it just made me smile. So I wanted to share that all with you. So yeah, initial lessons, initial reflections. And I appreciate you all listening. Thank you so much.
Great, Michelle. Thank you very much. Nice to listen to this. Our next presentation is also from Canada. It is Matthew Sheahan and Heather Newman from, and their title of the presentation is Current of Change, Climate Justice, Water and Steam. Welcome, Matthew and Heather.
Hello. Nice to see you all this morning.
Yes, same to you.
Matthew's just getting our screen shared.
It is shared. Is it not up? Like I have it.
Yep, we got it. We're good.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our talk today. We're talking about currents of change, exploring climate justice and water through story, movement, and STEAM, which is something that Matthew and I developed recently, kind of exploring some books and some topics that were important to us. So.
And you're going to hear more about that as it goes. I apologize if my voice is a little raspy. It's because my allergies are really bad. And in Canada, everything is in bloom right now. And it's assaulting my senses. So very, very briefly, and we're going to share this this slideshow with everyone if you want access to it. There's links in it. My name is Matthew Sheahan, and I am currently the past president of the Council of Ontario Drama and Dance Educators. I also get to work with Ollie and Donia and other people with IDEA as the Vice President of the General Meeting Committee. So if anyone here is going to be at the General Council meeting on the 6th, I will see you there. But it'll be very, very early for me at 4 a.m. I recently took over this past spring as the managing editor of Provocations Drama and Dance Journal as well. And so we just released our 5th volume. We release one online journal every year. And volume 6 topics are going to be coming very soon as I get around to sharing it. And over to my co-presenter.
I'm Heather Newman. I'm up in Kenora, Ontario. I teach secondary drama up here, and I also do vocal music and English. I'm also the Northwest Regional Coordinator for Code, which is pretty exciting. So I get to work with Michelle and with Matthew. And I'm in a fairly isolated rural area in Northwestern Ontario here. So it's lovely to be able to connect with people and other educators doing work all around the world. So
yeah, to give you a little bit of context, we worked on this online together and presented in person, but we are 2,000 kilometers apart, yet still in the same province. One of 10 provinces in Canada, so a good distance away.
So we were really, really lucky in that we developed this to present at the Dream Forward Steam Ahead conference that was held in Milton, Ontario, at the end of March. We were able to bring this down and work not only with educators in drama and in basically a very technical forward area, but we were also able to work with students from the school, which was really, really interesting to kind of hear their different takes on what the activities were that we were doing. We were able to utilize tableau and movement and a bunch of things to kind of really get into the social issue of water stewardship, which is something that's pretty close to our hearts.
So the following activities were designed to avoid appropriation of voice or culture. So we used indigenous texts and some indigenous worldviews. And it's important to recognize, and we share this in a Canadian context, where you are coming from and how you integrate, learn, and utilize indigenous content material, especially if approaching it as a non-indigenous person, which both of us are. We need to conduct this work in a mindful, good way that promotes the decentering of a settler white narrative and story and centers indigenous voices in a good way, free from misuse or appropriation. So the strategies that we're using and the policy that we operate under with the Council of Ontario Drama and Dance Educators is a document we co-created, I should say, with the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit Association, Education Association of Ontario, and a variety of different educators and knowledge keepers from different Indigenous communities in Ontario, called In a Good Way. We published that in 2018, so it's 8 years old now, and we are currently working with communities, First Nation communities and knowledge keepers to revamp and update that document, because what we thought and what we were thinking 8 years ago is very different from what we're talking about and thinking about right now in a 2026 context. So just to be very quick, the book we used as an anchor text, it's interesting, you're seeing a theme here from Michelle's presentation to our presentation. And but we use this text in a way to lead to what Heather will lead us through after I'm done working through the text. And it was a book called We Are Water Protectors. And it's a book that's inspired by many different Indigenous-led movements across North America. But I know some people in this room, and I know that you'll see similarities between the things happening in your region and in your area of the world, and that's kind of why we want to do this presentation today. And in We Are Water Protectors, the protagonist is a strong young matriarch, and she is working because there's a black snake that threatens to destroy the earth and poison her people's water, and she is rallying her people to stand up and unite to fight against the black snake. And we will talk more about what the black snake is after we work through a few things. We were originally going to do this as a completely interactive workshop, but the problem was that we thought we'd be here all day if we for like an hour. So we're going to do a few spots where we'll ask you maybe some reflecting and see if anyone would be willing to share.
So one of the things that we thought that we might see if anyone wanted to share on was our initial talking circle point to introduce the activity. So to introduce the activity, what we did was we read this quote from the book and we asked students and educators who were with us to just let us know if that brought up any feelings, any words, if anything was evoked from this quote, which is, "We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, the winged ones, the crawling ones, the four-legged, the two-legged. The plants, trees, rivers, lakes, the earth. We are all related." So I don't know if anyone has any things that are coming up from that they'd want to put into the chat. They're more than welcome to. But this is how we really started off, by opening up a discussion on what this means to us as a jumping off point for our exploration of the story. Check in the chat.
Did we get anything in the chat?
No.
Not yet.
Oops. That's okay. Feel free as we're going through here, and I just hit the wrong button here on my.
Ooh, there we go. We got one. Our sense of responsibility. That's a really good one. Yeah.
So then, and we don't have time or the ability, but what we did also right after the initial talking circle to get people thinking about the themes, not only in the book, but then the extension beyond the book, was we had them do a grid conversation where we had them, as known by many different names. I call it a grid conversation because that's just how I anchor it in my head. We would read a statement, an absolute statement, and the center of where the people were gathered was, you don't have any feelings on the statement at all, or you don't know how you feel. And to each side is agree and disagree, and a variety of disagree. So when you read the statement, they can move to where they feel initially, and then everyone shares their thoughts on the statement and can, through constructive debate and discussion, people can change their minds based on where they're standing. And so we picked three of our statements just to read aloud for you today. And the first one is, "We have the ability and influence to protect the land that we are on." And so we'd read that, and the students and the teachers moved to where they felt as they agreed or disagreed with that. And we had a really productive conversation. And it's interesting to see, especially from that generational gap. Little caveat: we didn't have a lot of educators show up, so I wrangled a bunch of the teenagers who were volunteering, and we had like 8 of them there, and it was awesome. Because like to hear the youth share their perspectives, they were way more passionate about being like active and creating that change. And the educators in the room were like, "Yeah, we need to feed off this energy." State number 2 was, "Resource development is necessary for nation building." And in a Canadian context right now, I'm sure, and this is different. Everyone shares their own struggles, but like ever since a certain person was elected to the south of Canada, we've had lots of discussions around nation building products and trying to become more independent from other economies, which is really, really difficult when you're neighbors. And so that conversation has arisen, and we're having lots of hard conversations across the country. And statement number 3 was, "Advocacy from youth is crucial for change in society." So that was 3 of the 5. And if we had a lot of time today, we would divide the room and see how you felt on those statements, and then have people share constructively. And one of those things was to try to establish a way to have productive dialogue so that everyone was included and voices were heard. Oh, sorry. My presentation's not moving on me here now. 1 second. 1 second, everyone. Sorry, I don't know what's happening here. I just got a little bit of, it wants to edit for me right now on the slideshow, not switch. Okay. So I'm going to try to exit so I can come back in. And it's not letting me. There. Oh, there we go. Okay. 1 second. I apologize.
No problem. It happens.
Okay, so what we did after the core of the drama that we did leading into the activism was that we shared a variety of pictures out of context from the book. And then everyone had 5 pictures, and they had, when viewing the pictures, again, without knowing the title of the book, without knowing really the themes of the book, we had them go through the 5 pictures and record like everything they saw, their thoughts, their feelings, things they reacted to, words that popped in their head as they saw the picture. And then we moved through all 5, and we were very judicious in the pictures we picked. and no text was shared with the participants. But then when they were done, they all worked together, and I'll get to that slide in a second here. Just slowly share the pictures with you. That's one of my favorites. But if you're all adults in the room, you can probably guess what that black snake is based on its long design. And the one thing we're talking a lot about is, again, unfortunately, in Canada, is the development of pipelines for resource extraction. And all the everyone argues from an economic point, and then there's also the really awful, dark environmental impacts of that. And so after sharing all this, they had a whole bunch of different words, and then as groups, they came together. The first thing they did was they came together and they had to come up with an agreement on one word for each picture that that they could all agree that that was the strongest word to anchor that one picture. And then they created 5 tableaux, one for each the word that they picked for each picture. And then we kind of went around the room and each person shared those pictures. And if you look back at the slide where when we were at the conference in Ontario, people presented those, and we have pictures of those tableaux in that slide. And so that was one activity that we did as a pre-reading activity before getting into the text. So some other activities, moving this here, was we provided people with a time writing activity, each participant with one word from the text, then talking about what they saw. They then had to do a timed writing activity, like a flow writing activity, where and this is one activity they could do. We didn't have time to do it at the conference actually, but was where they could create material for a choral speaking activity with another group on their own, based on their initial reactions and their feelings about the words that they pulled from the pictures. And the thing of it being a 4 to 5 minute time writing activity was that they weren't supposed to stop writing until the time was up. And so you'd have some really great things written down, and then some things you might want to edit later and remove because they didn't really flow all that well. And then another activity, this actually is excuse me. There's an example of this on Provocations because I did a similar activity where students wrote it like a children's book based on a painting I showed them from a Métis artist in Canada. And so you could have students generating stories, and we have some provocations for that. And stories from a perspective that's not from those in the book, because the idea is we're using the book to create free from appropriating the voice of the young girl in the text. Because I myself am not Indigenous, and so I'm not going to speak for Indigenous people. The text itself will give me that. We want to make sure that students have ways to create, though, and utilize those voices in a good way that's coming from them in that moment. And then just the last one was, that children's book that we talked about. And there's a link in there to Gavin's Purpose, which was created by one of my students many years ago, and we published it in volume 1 of Provocations. And again, we can share this slideshow with everyone. I'll probably just put a link in the chat when we're done, and anyone can look at it. And it was really cool because it was during the pandemic, we were stuck inside, and we had very few things we could do online teaching drama to students. And one thing we did was utilize Indigenous material to then provoke thought and create beyond there. And then place-based tableaus. So I'm having them think of after reading the text, how the participants brainstorm places of significance to them, just like the young girl had places of significance, like the land and monuments and space that she held dear to herself that was being disrupted by resource development, and then constructing tableaus to show us those spaces, but more from a feeling and from a symbolic way and a metaphorical sense, not physically, but they could be physically depending on your group. I mean, we can vary it to let the students access where they're at. And I'm going to pass things over to Mike to present.
Sounds good. So what I was really interested in is once we did all of that, then how do we move forward, make things applicable to our own regions, and get our students to engage in activism especially if they're feeling in a really rural and isolated way, like so many of my students are. So I'm from an area in Ontario called Sunset Country, northwestern Ontario, where there are literally more lakes than population. We have around 70,000 lakes in northwestern Ontario and a population of 65,000 people. So water conservation is something that's really, really close to our heart. The boundary waters are basically symbolic for Lake of the Woods, Rainy Lake, and waters that we share a border with the United States. And currently, there is an issue with specifically the boundary waters in that down south, they are pushing through legislation to overrule a decision that was made to protect the natural environment to approve a copper sulfide mine going in to the lakes down there, which will, of course, run up into our watershed as well. So that's kind of been a current ongoing issue just with water stewardship in my region. So I was really excited to kind of use this as a way to unpack this and explore this with my students in specifically the impact to our region and all of the issues that we have up here environmentally. So do you want to jump to the next slide, Matthew? Thank you. So this is just the quick points that I had shared with my students. I had basically made cards that kind of talked about what a very quick version of these information was. So we talked about how the Boundary Waters Canoe Area connects Quetico Provincial Park. Pollution from U.S. mining could flow into Canadian lakes and rivers. How does that threaten our ecosystems, wildlife, and our tourism? Because tourism is our lifeblood of our economy up here for fishing and for enjoying the land. So if that is destroyed, that would have a massive impact. And we also discussed how Canada has little authority over U.S. mining decisions and how do we look at cross-border water governance. So that was just this specific card. If you jump to the next slide, you'll see I actually did a lot of cards though, because we have a lot of environmental issues in my specific region. So as an educator, I did some work looking at this and I used this as jumping off points. So what we did was give these to students, to groups to start looking at, because some of them might not have heard of these things before, and had basically them start to generate questions and generate discussion on local topics. So next slide. So from there, my students are always very much wanting to, what is the next step? So I also gave them some sample guided research questions to take basically that tiny bit of information and be like, where do we get more information on this? And how do we find out our information is credible, especially online? So this was just a very quick research card that I gave them, but most of it was just about discussion and discussion of what this all means to us. Next slide.
Sorry, it's not working for some reason.
It's all good. So from there, I'll just talk a little bit as we get the next slide set up. From there, especially with my students up north, we talked about how do we reach an audience? Because in drama, in live theater, our audience is there right in front of us. But when we are very, very isolated, when we are hours and hours and hours from the nearest city, when we are in kind of our own little tiny communities, how can we get the word out there? How can we reach and impact a larger audience? And something that my students had come up with was social media online presence, which obviously has its own controversies, but my students in discussion really believed that that was a good way to connect with things that are happening outside in the world. So part of the activity after we discussed that was looking at social media activism and pathways. So my students would talk about things, challenges that they had seen online, information that was shared from people that they knew. That's how kind of the Boundary Waters became really, really prevalent with my students at my school right now, is people started sharing more and more about it online. So I like this document because this helps students come up with what is the audience in each platform, which also gets them starting to evaluate their own online presence. Who uses Instagram versus who uses Facebook versus who uses TikTok? And how do you choose the audience that you want to reach and how do you reach them best? So it actually got into some really interesting analytical parts. When we did the presentation with the group in Milton, going back to what Matthew was saying about the generational divide, that was really fascinating, hearing the discussion from an older group on what was the best one to create change versus the younger group. So that was really interesting and made some very interesting conversations just in terms of activism. From there, the next part of the activity is looking at the information, looking at your audience, looking at visuals, music, anything like that, and how do you create an activism post? So You can see here, this is just the blank template, but then the other one is the template filled in. Photos, what's their platform, what song would they use? I think this one was A Rock Somewhere / The Seed. Text, and then also linking to informations on the issue and next steps on the issue. What I found really fascinating and actually was really exciting is I did this activity with some of my senior drama students who also at our school form something called our Youth in Philanthropy Club, which gets a grant essentially every year to research and donate money to different things that they've explored, that they've researched, that they've done. And actually, our Youth in Philanthropy group this year decided to donate money to the what's it called? I'm forgetting the exact name of it. The advocacy group, which is the International Joint Commission on Watershed Boundaries. So they actually are donated water to the Save the Boundary issue, which I thought was really, really fascinating after we got to really explore this. So they actually were able to really hone in on that. So it's just a neat way to kind of think about how can we take what we feel and put it onto a bigger, how can we explore how we can create a little bit more of an impact on a bigger scale than just in our tiny little school. So yeah, that was kind of what I did.
Amazing. And so, yeah, both things coming together was like, setting the pathways for, what does activism and what are the issues, and then like how can we put that into action. And so, thank you. And we'll actually share this slideshow in the chat, so anyone can access the links or anything in there. And please, we'll be around for questions later if anyone has any. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Great, Matthew and Heather, really interesting. And there's a lot of material there. And I just the question came to my mind, is it accessible somewhere, the material, all this teaching material that you have there and the book and everything? But maybe we can discuss it afterwards.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. Okay. So our next presenter is Yu from United Kingdom, and the title is Training the Intercultural Physical Body. So welcome, Yu.
Hi everyone. So please wait a momentary to project it. Okay.
Can I interrupt? Can I ask all of the listeners to turn off their cameras and their sound? Dunya was asking for it in the chat because we are recording the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
You, if you want, you can have your camera on since you're presenting, however you wish.
But I already turned on.
Oh, okay, I see you.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Yu Lu, and I'm a practitioner and a researcher at the University of Birmingham in UK. And I'm pleased to share my intercultural method for the practitioner and the performers who working across the intercultural theater and the physical theater. And I term my approach as the intercultural physical theater interconnection with improvisation. It means in my method, the intercultural means through the connectedness through the improvisation and the improvisation. And I also tested it with my original piece, Black Bird. And this piece was performed in Birmingham last year. And okay, I will introduce my method through several aspects, the introduction and my aim, and my method and the king, the principle. The firstly, I want to say this piece is my original piece and inspired by the extinction of the great auk, a kind of seabird. Of course, it's already extinct. And also, I want to say this method, I want to propose a repeatable and teachable the intercultural method for the practitioner and the educators, so it's repeatable for every educators. And also, the first thing I want to clarify some of the aspects and the keywords about the method. The first one is physical theater. Physics theater is already established by some scholars like Simon Murray and Mark Evans and some the practitioners in UK and around the world. And it can be described a kind of the performer form that incorporates the different the stage means, of course, the body-based. And also, intercultural theater is also widely discussed by the many scholars, but it always be discussed as like the cultural display or the cultural mixing. So I identify this the term, the intercultural physics theater, as best to be understood as a compositional, embodied compositional and rehearsal-based method. It means the intercultural meaning is not through the juxtaposition of the recognizable the cultural sign, but through the embodied composition, through the interconnectedness between the different cultural traditions. Now, firstly, I want to introduce the stylization. In Chinese performance tradition, the stylization, it means that every movement is codified and stylized, and to convey the intercultural meanings through the symbolic economy. Like every movement is stylized. When I open a door, I don't need to the props, just use my hands to do the movement and close the door. But like I mentioned in my method, every movement, the intercultural meaning not through the isolated the movement system, but from the interconnected the system. So here I want to introduce the improvisation. The improvisation, I choose the several improvisation models. First, the Lecoq, the method. I choose the Lecoq method because his work focuses on the neutrality and to pursue universal poetic awareness. It means it's the naturalistic physical start point, and to show the universal meaning, the conveying the intercultural meaning to, I think, overcome the cultural barriers, of course. And here I also want to introduce the touch-based improvisation, and it's very, I think it's very friendly to the beginners. I test with the UK universities, of course. The later I will introduce. I designed a 5-step method, which I implemented 3 key stages to test whether my method is teachable and repeatable for the performers, and whether my method is readable to the audience. Now here I want to identify the 5-step poses, the 5-step method. Here, during the rehearsals, I conduct a 5-step method, including teach, improvise, select, refine, and stage. About the teach, I introduce and exchange the foundational, the Shiqu stylized movement with the wasting the devising practice to students. It means students, they can build skills and also explore the interconnection and interaction of the different movement system at the beginning. And I also guided the student to explore the improvisation through tasks, context, and the responsiveness and the constraints, or the many tasks, of course. And then is select. It means I created and edit the materials into structures. I focus on the coherent movement, like the clarity and the safety and the symbolic economy. And also refine. This is very important stage for the performers during the rehearsal poses. They can propose and test the embodied choices, and the the intercultural meanings through the rehearsals and from the refinement and the selection. Finally, the stage for the performer to perform their interconnected movement on stage and receive the feedbacks from the audience. Through the spectator encounters, we can also receive the positive feedbacks or some advice for us to refine our piece. Here, the piece need to involve the three key stages is including the three stages. The three stages including the workshops and the formal rehearsals and the performers. Like I mentioned before, the workshops can be divided the two parts: the stylized movement workshops and the improvisation workshops. All exercises are chosen by me and to fit the piece and the production. And also the second one is the rehearsal poses. I treat every performer as the creator and they can propose and test the embodied choice. They can explore the interconnected movement by themselves. And also, I treat the performer at the center of the rehearsal poses. Here, finally is the performer's stage. Of course, the performer stage can involve with the spectator encounter, so they can communicate with the audience to receive feedbacks and to test the readability and to test the movement whether it's clarified or not. I want to explain that this method emerged from my embodied background as a practitioner treating in China. I treat Shiqu and the Kung Fu when I was a very young age. And while doing my PhD, I traveled to the UK and Spain and France to learn the improvisation, the technologies to help me to propose this method. And also, I want to mention that the Blind Bird, the case study, the scene 4 is about the fighting scene. It means the two hunters, they want to kill all the race of the great oak. During this scene, the performers, they create the connected movement by themselves. They treat before. And I want to mention that every performers, they with non-specialist the training experience. It means they are all the year 1 students at the university in UK. And during this process, they with the mix the background. In Blind Bird, the performers they from Ireland, from UK, from Malaysia, from Japan, from China. So their mixed background is also help me to test whether my method is teachable and accessible to the performers. And also their diversity also help me to test the performer, like the intercultural readability and the performer also shape is also very important to me. So I want to show, like during the rehearsal poses, there are pictures to show the interconnected movement generated by themselves. You can see. I want to say that during the poses, of course, I test the interconnectedness very carefully. If the movement is not fit for the production, I will remove it. So, like I mentioned before, I want my method to show the intercultural meanings through the embodied composition, rather than just for the cultural display or the cultural mixing. So this method to avoid the colonial dynamics or the one way of cultural borrowing. And also here I want to say I also triangulated and the multiple form of the evidence, like the performers and the interviews and the audience questionnaires, the post-performance discussions. So through the feedbacks from the performers and the audience, we can conclude whether my method is teachable or the repeatable. So here is the audience feedbacks from the performers in Birmingham, the Blind Bird. And also, through this piece, I also want the performers to know the two aspects. The first one, I want my performer to know the importance of protecting the environment and the animal. And secondly, this piece, I want my performers to know the fusing, the different, the tradition, the cultural traditions, and to emerge or to generate the intercultural meaning through the different cultural traditions. And here, finally, I want to see here. Of course, here is a picture I captured from the London. The museum is a specimen of the great oak. It's already distinct. Okay, here is my the presentation. Thank you for everyone for listening. Okay.
Thank you, you. Yeah, you have a picture of the bird, the Geirfugl bird, which is extinct at the end. It's from Iceland, and I'm from Iceland.
Wow.
It's nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
coincidence.
Yeah. It's great. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So let's just move on to the next presenter from Germany, Lutz Pickardt, with theater education as democratic practice.
Okay, hello
Welcome
everybody.
to you, Lutz.
Yeah, I hope everything works with a split screen. I will see. One moment. Should be this one. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, one moment. So the title is Theater Makes Politics. It was a Erasmus Plus project from 2022 to 2025. And the result is a handbook for theater practitioners, especially for school teachers, social pedagogues, theater pedagogues, cultural pedagogues. And the main idea was to have a response to anti-democratic
Lutz.
force. Pardon?
Sorry, Lutz, sorry to interrupt you, but can you do like full screen?
Yeah, I check it. Better?
No, we cannot see the full screen.
Oh.
Maybe to share again.
Yeah, it's a bit
With the full
complicated with
screen.
all these
Yeah.
screens once again. Where are
PowerPoint
you?
is always complicated on Zoom.
Yeah, I know. I didn't do it for a while, so I lost the Zoom. A moment. Where are you?
So is it maybe that the slide, when the slideshow is, it appears in another window or something?
Yeah, I think you should start.
So you just to click on that window and then.
So finally, I could, even to close it was difficult.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's for the video and for live stream. It's easier
Pardon?
for people.
What do you see now?
Nothing.
Yeah, that's good, because I stopped it. Now you see me again, right?
Yeah, we see you now, and
Very good.
but we don't see the slides.
Yeah, we've been
sure.
coming. Yeah, I check it again to should be this one. How's it now?
Still the same.
Weird. One moment.
Strange.
I think it's the problem is the second screen. I just close one of the screens, and then maybe it's easier to organize. I'm sorry for this.
It's okay. Technical problems.
So again, now I try again. Should be this one. Better?
No.
Why does that happen? I don't
Lutz,
know.
we can see the screen. If you just go down to your bottom right and you just click that's it, that one. Click on that.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Whew.
Thank you. Sorry to bother you.
Okay. No, it's
Thank
fine.
you.
It's my problem, not yours. But anyway, so it was a project from 2025 to 2022 to 2025, a 3 years project, collaboration with 6 partners from 5 European countries, and to create a response to anti-democratic forces in Europe, but they exist all over the world, I guess. And we created a handbook, a practical handbook with a lot of exercises, essays, and so on. And you see the main subjects. These are 4 chapters in the handbook. The first one is right-wing extremism and populism. The second is searching for identity. I will tell you something more about that. Christian fundamentalism, which is in Germany not so obvious, but maybe more in Greece and in North Macedonia and in Portugal. And we have this chapter about disinformation and fake news and all this. And conspiracy theories, this is the 4th chapter. I want to show you a little video in between to give you an idea of the work. And I hope I can share again. Should be here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Good. So this was a kind of pilot workshop on the island of Lesbos in Greece, where everybody came together and to try out our methods, our first ideas. Okay, coming back to the presentation. Should be here. Does it work? Hello? Do you
Yes,
see that?
yes.
Good. So Lesbos was very interesting because on the one hand, it's very touristic and a wonderful island and like paradise. At the same time, it's a hotspot for, on the one time, for refugees. Many refugees came in the last years over Lesbos and other islands, especially in Greece and Italy. And And there's a lot of, let's say, right-wing extremism on this island as well, or people who are really, really hostile against refugees. So it's quite a hotspot. So we created these 4 workshops, and I will give you some ideas about what is the workshop about. So the first one is the right-wing extremism and populism. And it's a lot about approaches, assumptions. Yeah, who am I? And it works a lot with installation. This is not theater; it's more fine art or sculpture building, but also with material, but with people, with participants. And it's addressing the main subject: populism, racism, right-wing extremism, and anti-refugee rhetoric. And yes, the body is also part of the sculpture and as a machine. And we also used in all the 4 workshops forum theater from the Theater of the Oppressed of Auguste Boal, and developed utopias, right? So this is the first workshop. All the workshops are constructed as a 4-day workshop for schools or non-school environment, 4 days of 4 or 5 hours, but you can, of course, have an instruction to make it shorter or longer. Second wing is searching for identity. This is a bit special because we try to bring together, compare, and 2 forms of extremism. The one is right-wing extremism again, and the other part is Islamic fundamentalism. So we encounter these different forces in the world, especially in Europe, and what is so attractive for especially for young people, to go for these forces. And this was very important for us, not to say how to deal with people who follow right extremists or Islamists, but why do people go there? What is so interesting? Yeah, and to go deeply into these attractions, into the powers, what desires they fulfill. And then we found out that these forces have in times very similar assumptions. They have both this good and bad, the believers, the non-believers, so this distinction between 2 parts, black and white, and they look back into the past and they somehow prefer a living which was before. They don't look into the future, and they are quite brutal and at times very brutal to the part of the others. And we didn't go for religion, for example, in this workshop. We went for identity because we had this. We were convinced about that people go there because they are shaken in their identities, especially young people, and how to respond to that. Third is Christian religious dogmatism and politics, and it's mainly how Christian influences rule societies, especially in Portugal and Greece and other countries, and how they really manipulate people in many ways, in the family, in politics, and so on. And it's also the purpose was to identify this manipulation and these influences, and to emancipate from that, of course. And the fourth, which is also very important for me, I think, which is more and more important, is how to deal with disinformation, misinformation, conspiracy theories, because these are the strategies which all populists and others use, and how to really distinguish between truth and to lies. And this is a workshop in the same kind. It's quite funny because we create a lot of lies in this workshop, and we create all own conspiracy theories, and at the same time we learn how is the blueprint for a conspiracy theory and to identify them. And of course, fact-checking is very important. So these are the 4 workshops which we created. This is now 1 year ago. And now we have this handbook in 6 languages. And there are also accompanying essays and other tips. And everybody can download it. And the German version can be bought in a bookshop. Yeah, that's the subject. And Nikos, who is here as well, who was also part of this collaboration. Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. That's it.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Lutz. Very interesting. I have lots of questions. Keep it till afterwards. So next, our next presenter is Roberson de Sousa Nunes from Brazil, with haiku performance and theater education, sensory practices for peace and ecological awareness. Welcome, Roberson. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Olafur. Good morning, everyone. Here's like 15 plus 10 a.m. In Brazil, in Belo Horizonte. It's a lot of beautiful presentations until this moment. Thank you, everyone. I will present haiku performance and theater education, sensory practice for peace and ecological awareness. So, since 2004, I have been teaching theater to children and teenagers and the Pedagogical Center of the Federal University of Minas Gerais, Brazil. It is a public elementary school inside on the largest federal universities in Brazil, where we work with children and also train future teachers. In this presentation specifically, I share part of my research developed over the last 20 years at the intersection between performance studies and Japanese haiku poem. Encourage the creative process in theater classes through the reading of haiku. We know that contemporary theater is not only based on dramatic texts. Theater education today expands its source, references, and forms of creation. My interest in haiku comes from a desire to create interdisciplinary performances that connect poetry, theater, image, sound, and movement. For example, this haiku by Matsuba Sho can already suggest a scene. The old pond. A frog just jumps in. The sound of water. Teaching practice. In my classroom practice, I frequently use theater games inspired by Violis Pauling and Augusto Boal. I also work with improvisations based on everyday life and fictional situations. Very often, the starting point for creation can be a song, an image, a myth, a newspaper article, or a poem. I chose non-dramatic sources because students often express themselves more freely when they are not bound to a fixed script. This does not reject dramatic theater. It expands the field of creation. Performance studies. The performance can be understood in many ways. Here, I use a broad field of practice that crosses disciplinary boundaries. Performance art, according to Richard Schechner and Diana Taylor, exists between art, life, and ritual. They call it archives and repertoire. It involves the transmission of knowledge through recordings and bodily and sensory experiences. We live in a time of global tensions. So I ask, how can artist practices generate real impact? How can they contribute to more harmonious coexistence? Performance art. Performance art, since the 20th century, challenges classical theater conventions through space, time, interdisciplinarity, and ephemerality. In this image, we can see a performance by John Cage. He was really interested about Zen culture at that time. These ideas, specifically the focus on the present moment, connect performance and haiku. Haiku is also an art form about being present in the here and now, and the ephemerality of this moment. What is haiku? In a short way, haiku is a concise poetic form connected to nature, seasons, and impermanence. It is structured in 3 lines, traditionally each one with 5, 7, and 5 syllables. One important element is the kigo, the seasonal reference. It was developed in Japan during the Edo period, and its great master is Matsubasho. Haiku in Brazil. Haiku captures the present moment like a photo. The haiku arrived in Brazil through Japanese immigration and influenced modernist and concrete poets. Here we can find haikus in Brazilian style. South America, Sun America, South America. The sky and the sea, through indigo into my Brazil. 2 leaves in the sandal. Auto also wants to walk. This ceremony, 3 guests and a mosquito. Haiku. Only the clouds swim at the bottom of the rivers. It's the work, the start, my first research about haiku. I created this performance in 2006. It was performed in several Brazilian cities until 2010. Next, Dunya, please. It was inspired by classical Japanese haiku, the cry of pheasant. How much I miss my father and my mother. In 2010, I created Haiku 1 quarter, spring. This one was performed in New York. I walked through the city as a way of interrupting its accelerated rhythm and create moment of stillness. In 2023, I returned to this research at the University of São Paulo, where I gave lectures and workshops, both there and in Japan. And more recently, in 2024, I led a workshop in Beijing, exploring haiku, nature, and performance as pedagogical tools. In all these places, I noticed that people became quite involved with the proposals. They managed to express the power of the poems through their gestures and feelings. Can you see? Pedagogical practices. I also use haiku as a leitmotif for creation in the classroom at my school. Look at some Brazilian contemporary haikus for children. Great frost, white, 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 and a spot call. Gray sky, just a white streak, the flight on the heron. End of holiday, families scratch each other in traffic jams. In the grandmother's eye, the past lights up, visiting day. Sun among the clouds, on the avenue remains the flamboyant flowers. These haikus help me connect students with ecological awareness and spark discussions about issues present in large cities today. Conceptual conclusions, ecological. My goal is to foster a more sensitive relationship between students and nature, encourage a poetic awareness of the concrete world. Theater, in this sense, becomes a way of reconnection of human beings with the earth, the sky, and the natural environment. However, this approach can seem quite abstract, especially to children. For me, it's very important to develop metaphorical experience for them. That is why non-traditional methods in theater education are both challenge and opportunity. They require imagination, embodied knowledge, and openness to multiple languages. Theater, as a living art, can help us imagine new forms of coexistence between people and with the planet. Since haiku does not follow a classical dramatic structure, it opens a space closer to performance art than to traditional theater. By introducing haiku into theater education, my goal is to create poetical and visual experiences that reconnect students and their own memories, their environment, and their sense of belonging through sensory and emotional engagement. In conclusion, I believe contemporary theater education should contribute to a more ecological and sensitive way of being in the world. Haiku can be a powerful inspiration for this. If not based on it, we urgently need to develop artistic practices grounded in the same values. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Dunya, and all of you, and everyone.
Thank you so much, Roberson. And thank you all for great presentations, great and varied presentations, and that are really inspiring for all ages, I think. And it's given me ideas and insights and interests in exploring further. And I'm thinking, since I've just to start, we will have questions and or discussion now. So I will before I open the floor for the discussions, I was just thinking, to my mind comes there's a lot of material there that people are introducing and telling us about. So I'm just thinking it's really, I would be really interested in exploring that material further. So I was thinking if it might be possible to create to send links, if there are links to this material, to send these links to me and Dunya, and we could create like a document with the links to this material. I think that would be really useful, and it's a lot of inspiring material that I personally could see that I could use and get inspired from further. So really, thank you so much for that. Now, now we will have a little discussion, and I just open the floor. Are there comments, questions, and feel free to ask and talk.
Sorry, Ollie, there was one question which was also answered in chat, but because of
Okay.
the live stream, I'd like Michelle to answer it shortly again,
Yeah.
if that's possible. So the question was, did you give the students a choice of which of the stories they were able to focus on from the book? Was that part of the first lesson? How did you frame the work?
Yes, this all was part of the first lesson. So the way that I introduced all of this was we brainstormed vocabulary, gestures, sound effects related to peace and conflict. Those were the two, or peace and war are the two terms that I came up with, and the students brainstormed lots of ideas. And then we chose opposing words. So it might have been inclusion, exclusion, it might have been conflict resolution. It was, we started with peace and war. That was their choice. And the first movement activity we started with, after just sort of moving around the room and getting a sense of the space, was the wave. So you saw that exercise. It was the two lines where the students walk towards each other and then they break off into statues. And each side, each line represented a different theme, an opposing theme. And we switched. They both had a chance to experience both sides, and they were encouraged to interact with each other. Actually, they asked if they could interact with each other, which I love that they had that instinct. And then from there, I brought everybody back together, and I read one of the stories from the book. And as a group, we summarized what we thought the conflict was and what the resolution was. And then I split the class into half, and one half of the class created a tableau of the conflict and had to give it a title, just a one-sentence title. And the other half created the resolution. And then from there, they broke off into small groups of their choice. I let them choose. It's not always a great idea to let them choose, but in this situation, I did. And some of the kids just wanted to work in partners. Some of them wanted to work in a group of 6, and I let that happen. They chose the story they were interested in and the one that resonated with them. And their job in this first lesson was to create the two tableaus, conflict, resolution. They needed to add a 10-second transition connecting the two, and they had to title them. And then we talked as a class about similarities and differences that we saw amongst the tableaus, because they all reflected different parts of the world, different conflicts and resolutions through history, but they started to notice like similar themes, similar ideas. And then we had a big talk about that. And that was all in the first lesson. That was about, I kept them, that was 45 minutes. We worked fast, but it was 45 minutes.
Right.
That's a lot. 45
It is a
minutes.
lot. They are like, if it was younger kids, I take a lot more time. I only get to see some of my classes only once a week. So I try to pack as much in as we can. And this particular group they were just really into this activity. And then as we revisit, we talk more, we go through exercises again, like maybe the next week. We build from week to week, but in that first session was like a blitz. It was like, go, 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 go. Let's keep going. Next activity. But they were ready to move on. And the conversations just kept naturally leading into the next exercise. And we had a really great time. And I've included those steps in my slideshow. I put the link in the chat. So there's a new slide at the end of my slideshow where it's like, these are the steps that I took in that first lesson, as well as a link to the Owl Kids Publishing to purchase the book if you're interested, or to learn more about what a soldier spot with pillows.
Thank you.
Yeah, lots of student choice.
Thank you. Are there more questions in the chat, Dunya?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should I read it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, you can also raise your hands and yeah. So.
Yeah. So this
Both?
is the question for Lutz. Do you have examples of how the work has been used since your workshops?
Yes. I mean, I don't have so much information about my European partners because this project was finishing in last year. So I know that everybody was using our handbook ideas with lots of pilot workshops with youngsters all over Europe, trying out and further develop our ideas. But in Germany, I'm in charge of developing the whole project. And on the one hand, I created three further education workshops for professionals. And I think it happened 4, 6 times now, 5, 6 times in Germany now that I was booked. And on the other hand, many theaters told me that they want to try out the handbook or ideas from the handbook. Theaters and social cultural centers and also teachers. So people just download our handbook and or buy it because you can buy it in Germany also and try out. Yes, mainly I think they don't do exactly what we wrote in the handbook. They use it as an inspiration and mix it with their own approach and ideas. But that's exactly what we were aiming for. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I personally, I was interested in, many of the topics that you're working with in this material, and I would really like to know more about how you were working with those. But probably I would need to read the handbook to see that. But one of the questions that I had, I was thinking, how did you work with how did you go about working with disinformation and conspiracy theories, like through drama? What did you do?
Oh, this is my the ones which I most like because it's this whole field of disinformation and conspiracy theories is very dramatic in a way. So it's a lot of drama in it and a lot of stories because people create stories. Yeah, as conspiracy theory is a story, and we just create own stories. We create own disinformation. And how can we learn to lie? And at the same time, people understand how is a lie constructed and what is the blueprint for all this and what's the effect. And on the other hand, we have forum theater exercises, for example, how youngsters can handle situations in their peer group when there is an extremist forces, when there is an extreme person, or when the whole group is going into extreme direction, and how can they handle the whole situation. So it's a mixture of recreating, also understanding first these different phenomena of different disinformation, recreating disinformation, and how to identify it. Yeah, I have to say that it was ended in beginning of 2025, and nowadays there's a lot of development with artificial intelligence now. And if I would go on with this book, I would go very much more for AI disinformation and with deep fake photographs and videos and so on. Would be a further development. But I think especially in this workshop, there's a lot of material for working with drama.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. Any more in the web in the chat? Or
Well, the questions, not for now. But you can
okay.
still write if you have any, or you can raise the hand to ask.
Yes. Please raise a hand. Okay.
Should I dramatically take a sip of my coffee while we wait? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can read the comment from Robin.
Yeah.
He said that in this webinar we are sharing stories of transformation and change, and he's thankful for all the presenters. Transformative learning is a process that leads to a significant shift in an individual's perspective. It involves critical reflection on one's beliefs and assumptions, ultimately altering their understanding of themselves and the world around them. With his colleague, Dr. Christina Gray, he is embedded in research project theorizing drama as transformative learning. So he also wants to share that.
Thank you. Yes. Well, there's so many interesting things we can discuss and reflect on. And one, for example, I'm really interested. Like I said before, I'm very interested in all the material. And I thought, it was really the pictures that you are using in your work, Matthew and Heather. Beautiful pictures and really inspiring, and must be inspiring to introduce them to your students. Can you reflect a little bit on that, maybe?
For sure. I think I can go first. And so this is the cover. Oh, just hold on. Let me get my background out here. The reason why my background's up is that I'm sitting in my daughter's room. She actually doesn't live here anymore, but behind me are all her posters for her favorite movies. And so you not normally use the thing I usually share on a webinar, but yeah, it's being transformed into my office eventually, but I haven't had time. So this is the cover of the text. We are water protectors,
Mm.
and it's by Carol Lindstrom and illustrated by Michaela Goad, who also has penned quite a few children's books herself. And
Hmm.
when Heather and I met to go over this, it was we talked about we chose this text because like it's the ideas behind it. Then we were looking from an Ontario perspective originally, like an Ontario/American perspective. But then like when we talk about this webinar, we talk about how like all over the world we can be having these same discussions, and the whole concept of from this particular area, from a First Nation First Nations or Anishinaabe view of the world, of everything in relation with each other and everything's our relative, that exists in multiple areas in the world, and that the pictures are really powerful, and like we can talk about resource extraction and the need for that eco justice anywhere.
Hmm.
And so that's why it was really cool. I don't know if you want to expand on that a
Yeah.
little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the images themselves. A large amount of my students are Indigenous First Nations, Métis Inuit. So the representation in the photos was really, really important to them when they were able to see them and connect with them, rather because it put things through the lens of bigger accessibility for them, I guess you would say, in that they felt more connected to the text and what we were doing. And that was really, really important, I felt, for accessing for all students and in terms of that connection. The artwork was just really beautiful. We also are really lucky in that my school really promotes a lot of land-based learning. So my students spend a lot of time outside. Like our school is always consistently outside, camping, walking, enjoying our lakes and our nature that's around us. And it's been that way for all of our students from the age of 5 until I get them now when they're 16. So the fact that our school has such a focus on our natural environment really kind of helped my students buy into the work in a very personal way, which was really, really lovely to see in Northwestern Ontario. So,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I'm inspired by these pictures and by your work. Yeah. I'm really interested in knowing more about it.
I guess we just have to go to Iceland and present there,
Yes,
Oliver.
maybe, or you can in Turkey next year. Yeah, so see you in
They're
Turkey.
saving.
Yeah. So, yeah, any more comments, questions?
I just want to say I love seeing a young Roberson in pictures from like 2010. Because I thought you were like 20 now.
Like,
I
Can you
said I
repeat
liked
what you?
seeing pictures. I said I liked seeing pictures of a young Roberson. But I thought
yes.
you were like only 20 now. So I mean, like, I didn't realize like in 2010 you're. It's a joke. It was a joke, my friend. It was great. I
This
loved
is
it.
20 years ago.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Also, yeah, the haiku form is a kind of a beautiful, and it takes you always somewhere, into imaginary world, or like poetic, like you said. So, do you sometimes do performances? That you develop performances that you for audiences using the haiku form as an what do you say? How do you say it? Incentive, like to as a starting point.
Um, Olafur, you ask about the children in the classroom or about my performance haiku? I did it.
In the school?
In the school,
Yeah.
not yet. Just
No.
experiences in the classroom with people with poems.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's very important to use poems because we have a lot of conflicts in the
Hmm.
classroom between among students in this moment. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think when you use some poetic images and you can go do some experience outside and try to listen the birds or
Mm.
feel the sensation, the sun on the skin. You can perceive other conditions, other possibilities to relationship between people on the school. Do you know? I
Mm.
think it's more about this than to take some experience on the stage in this moment.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. And I also think, haiku, like you were showing in the photos, there is it can be an inspiration to create a performance, like for a performance artist. A haiku, like it's an image or something that can create an image you can work with as a performance artist. Also that became an inspiration for me. And I also want to mention that with with Liu, the connection with physical theater and haiku. There's a connection there, and then also with Michelle, working with dance. And also you were quoting Jacques Lecoq, which he wrote his book on his teachings and theories is called The Poetic Body. So I think I think there's a connection there definitely, and
Yeah, and I
beyond.
perceive some connection with you, Liu, also. Yeah, it's a
Mm,
physical theater. Yes, Olafur.
mm, yeah,
What you think?
yes,
You, Liu.
okay. Um, well, I think we are maybe about to be ready to conclude, and yeah, it was really nice to have you all and to listen to these inspiring presentations. And if you could send links or information to Dunya and me, and then we can create a document that we can send to the whole group, and maybe just to have to put to send to members of IDEA or something like that. Is that okay? Would that be okay? Yeah, I think that would be just inspiring, and it's good to have material that sort of is coming, is left after the webinar. So
Oh,
thank you all. Sorry.
oh no, he sign off, Oliver, sir. My bad.
Okay, so thank you all for coming and joining this webinar. It was really a pleasure, and We will hopefully see you all again in the next webinar, which will be probably in the autumn. I guess we haven't decided yet. But anyway, thank you so much for everyone and have a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Nice to see you
Bye.
people.
Bye.
Bye
Nice to
bye.
see you.